The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
Get ready for a no-nonsense approach to recovery. It's that guy who's living the dream rather than dreaming of living. You know him as the Addiction Doctor. Now, here's the Monty Man to introduce Dr. Robb Kelly on this episode of Take 12 Recovery Radio's The Robb Kelly Hour.
That's right. Welcome aboard, my friends, to a brand new show. Joining the Take 12 Recovery Radio family of broadcasters is our friend, the Addiction Doctor, Dr. Robb Kelly. Now, you may be asking, who in the heck is this guy, Robb Kelly, PhD, anyway? Well, Dr. Kelly is a world-renowned addiction expert who believes in treating the problem, not the symptom. Based on his own experiences working with addicts and alcoholics over 2 decades, combined with a PhD in psychology and as a recovered alcoholic himself, he is a triple threat against the disease of addiction. Dr. Kelly's philosophy may seem slightly unconventional to some, but they are based on extensive research and behavior studies that he conducted over the last 20 years. Some people have referred to him as the Gordon Ramsay of the addiction world because, he's direct and it's no nonsense. Let me tell you, Robb Kelly has worked with thousands of people, including celebrities of film, music, and sports. He has lectured at many high-profile universities and hospitals on this subject of addiction and is recognized as a leading authority on addiction recovery methods that are changing lives all around the world. Dr. Robb, welcome to the Take 12 Recovery family of broadcasters.
Oh, my God, so welcome. Thank you, Monty. This is awesome. Fantastic show.
Absolutely. We are so honored to have you on. You are a very busy man, and you appear on national shows all the time and speak to literally hundreds of people, and you've taken the time once a month to do this show with us, the Robb Kelly Hour. What do you have for us this month, brother?
You know, I thought I'd tell a little bit about my story, and then I want to talk about the psychological effects with childhood trauma as we go through to our adult life regarding any addiction. And when I'm talking about addiction, guys, I'm not talking about just drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about everybody has an addiction. So we're going to be looking at that as well, if that's okay.
Absolutely. You bet. So when you say everybody has an addiction, you're quite literal about that, right? There are no normies.
No, everyone has an addiction. Think about it, guys, what your addiction is. It could be your boyfriend. It could be your husband. It could be cake. It could be gym. It could be, checking your bank account every couple of hours. I mean, everybody has one. And the first thing we need to do is define ours. Define your addiction. Now, some addictions are good, but like all addictions, to excess, there could be a problem with everything. I honestly, Monty, used to check my bank account every few hours because of my homelessness. I always thought I was going broke. Even though I had almost 7 figures in there, I'm still checking it. Where's this money gone? Where's that money gone? And I had to work on myself to make sure that it didn't take over my life.
Wow. So you were constantly doing, so it was an obsession.
An addiction, an obsession, yeah. I mean, it was just constant. I'm guarding my money in case anybody takes it off me. And where's this $200 gone to? And where's that $10 gone to? And it used to drive my wife crazy. In the end, she took the app off my phone. And she says, you're not allowed to put it on because it'll be on there every 2 minutes. And she changed the password. She changed the password to our bank account so I can't check on it. And she just keeps saying, how's the money going? We're doing good. That's all she'll say.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
I don't know.
So obsession doesn't conform to reason, does it?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It really doesn't, And it doesn't discriminate either. It's crazy the way it takes over your life.
Right.
Before you know it, you're doing this repetitive stuff all the time.
So how did that work the first month of not being able to check your bank account? Were you going nuts?
Yeah, I kind of was. It was a bit like alcohol withdrawal.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, the first few days was very frustrating. It was just, but over a period of time, and it's only been about 8 months, to be honest, but over the first 2 or 3 months, I started to be a weight off my shoulders.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need to look at that. Don't be silly. And I'd say to my friends, I'd say, I don't know, say there was $300,000 in the bank a couple of years ago. I'd say, hey, I've got $300,000 in the bank, and I'm scared. And he'd look at me and go, do you know how much 300,000 is? I go, well, yeah, but no buts, Rob. What? And they thought I was crazy, but it hangs back, of course, to my fear of losing everything again, because I've lost it twice before. The second one not to alcohol, but the first one to alcohol. The second just because it was a bad marriage. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Wow. So why don't people want to admit that they've got something where the tail's wagging the dog? I mean, the so-called normies out there, they're like saying right now, yeah, but my addiction doesn't put me in jail and it doesn't end up in the hospital. But they need to take it seriously anyway, don't they?
Yeah, they do, because they know the people who say, well, I've not ended up in jail. Let's think about that for a second. So you're doing something that's taken over your life, but you're not locked up. Aren't you locked up in your mind? Isn't it absolutely taking over everything in your mind 24 hours a day? I mean, I've heard people go on vacation, they go, got to get 2 workouts in today. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can't take 4 or 5 days off, if you're eating clean, just eat terrible for a bit, have a great time, fun, and you're withdrawing off that, which people do, it's kind of a problem. Because if you're missing for 2 or 3 hours a day from your family and you're away from their love and protection, then what's it all about? And everything, and this is hard, everything is limited. Everything in small amounts to make sure that it doesn't take over your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the good book says something somewhere about all things are permissible, but not all things are profitable.
Yes, I like that. I like that.
All righty. So what is your story anyway? I mean, a lot of people know your name, but do they know all about you?
Most people know the name. I just called it treatment center, the other side of the country.
Yeah.
And I started talking, and he went, wait, are you Dr. Robb Kelly? And I said, yes, that's me. So it's amazing how many people know me. I remember once I take a patient home who was staying in our center to home. We take him home every 30 days and meet the family and stuff like that. And we did this one. We took him home, and what we always do is we always get him dressed nicely. Now he's halfway through treatment. He's clean shaven. And 9 out of 10 times, the dad or mother will pass them as we walk towards them, which is awesome. But when we get there, we do like a day with all of us, and then I disappear for a day. And during this particular day, and this is South Carolina, I'm over there thinking, well, I'll have a look at AA meetings. So I bumped on my phone, had a look. There was one there called I never forget it, called the Smoke Stack. And I went there. Of course, everyone's smoking, which is no problem. And I sat there, quite a busy room. And any newcomers, any other visitors? So I put my hand up. My name's Robb Kelly and blah, blah, blah. And halfway through, they asked me to share a little bit, which I did. Anyway, there was these 6 or 7 bikers, and I mean fully kitted out bikers. Looked like they were junkyard dogs. They were pretty rough, and they were ready to go, and like big guys. They kept staring at me, Monty, all the time.
Yeah.
So through my alcoholic mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, is it the accent? Is it they don't like me? I mean, why? So we got up and did the Lord's Prayer before we went. As soon as we finished the Lord's Prayer, I was out of that door as quick as I can. And as I got out, my car was parked at the far part of the car park. And as I got out and started to walk very quickly, I could hear these rustle behind the boots and the chains. And I thought, I'm a goner. I can't take on all these guys. But when they got outside, I'm literally almost sprinting to my car. And one of them hollered, Dr. Robb Kelly. And I stopped and I turned around and one of them said, we've all seen your videos. Oh my God, you are awesome. And they came up and they're clapping me on the back and, they give me a can of Coke and I'm drinking. And I got in the car once and I started to cry. Because it was the first time I realized that people know me. People recognize me, But like you said, do they really know my story? Because what they see, and sometimes I hate to say this, but what they see is this rich doctor living a life beyond his wildest dreams with his cars and his dogs and his house and his wife and the money. and the TV and the books and the radio, all that stuff, and it's great. Don't forget, I love that stuff.
Sure.
No doubt about it. But what they don't realize is the journey that's cost me. Somebody said the other day to me, Monty, they went, I'd love to be in your shoes. You're just amazing. I said, would you pay the price that I've paid?
Right.
And he said, what's that? I said, homelessness and losing my children for 25 years.
Mm.
And he said, no, there's no way I'd do that. But that's what it cost me to be here. Now, I'm glad I went through everything. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I started drinking at the age of 9. It got worse and worse. I was a session musician. Finally got to Abbey Road as a session musician. Played with Queen, David Bowie, Elton John, all them great guys. Did sessions with all of them. Started, carried on drinking through college and the studio times, and started a business, still drinking, and then lost it all. I mean, literally lost everything that I own because I come home one day and my wife was packed the clothes and she said, we're not going through this anymore. I love you to the day I die, but you're not going to kill our kids and possibly me. You see, what happened in that house is I fell down the stairs one day because I was trying to get past my 2-year-old daughter who was trying to learn how to do the stairs, and I knocked her over because Daddy was running past and dying for a drink. And I kind of fell on top of her. Stuff like that happened in that house that people didn't see. And eventually, my wife left with my children. So being a businessman at the time, I asked for my attorney to get my children back, and they did. But 2 days later, they found me unconscious. The police kicked the door down, and there was, unfortunately. Anyway, the last thing my eldest daughter said to me, age 3, 4, was, Daddy, please stop drinking. I'd lost everything. Wives, kids, houses, cars, license, everything had gone.
Wow.
Parents threw me out. Friends threw me out. Acquaintances wouldn't even touch me. I remember sat on the street the first night, Monty, and I just kept thinking, where the hell did that just all go wrong? It was that vicious. It came. I mean, over a period of time I was drinking, it was okay. But when the final alcoholic drinking came, which I'll explain later, it was very vicious, and it wasn't kind, and it was mean, and it was just horrible. And I lived on the streets for 14 months. I tried to take my life on several occasions, and on 2 occasions it worked, and my heart stopped. And they brought me back to life on the back of a smelly, rainy, wet road, cobbled road in Manchester. And it was just terrible. And I finally had a spiritual awakening and got off the street, but that's the price I paid. You know? But I don't look back with anger. I look back with, hey, that was a good experience for me to do what I did today.
Yeah, so you don't let yourself go into morbid reflection. You value your experience, even though it was extremely uncomfortable, almost to death.
Without a doubt. I mean, at first I did. I was very angry.
Yeah.
Looking back, but I just realized that here's the deal. So when I was on the streets, I dropped down to my hands and knees one Monday morning, early hours, 3 or 4 o'clock. And I looked up to the sky, Monty, and I just said this. I said, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. 3 o'clock in the morning, guy walks around the corner. 30 seconds later, Monty, small Bible in his hand, missed his last bus home for the Bible study. I'd been walking for an hour before he came towards me, and he got me off the streets. So from then onwards, I knew my life. I met this guy that I could never trace. A weird story. I could never trace him. He took me through this book, and he took me through the spiritual awakening and stuff like that. But I knew from then on my life was good. But I spent a lot of time worrying and thinking about loss of kids, because by then I still not have got them back. It was only 2 years ago that my eldest daughter got in contact with me on Facebook. Youngest has never got in contact with me yet. So that's kind of the price I had to pay to be here. But do I look back now with more reflection? No, I don't. Because like you just said, I look at it like this. My time on the streets and the loss of my children and the experience I gained was like a semester at Harvard for me. Because I'm in the business of loneliness. I'm in the business of people dying. I'm in the business of distraught children and distraught wives and crying children and just devastation in the home. That's my business. How can I teach that or help people if I haven't gone through it?
So true. We do not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Dr. Robb, we're going to take a short break, and we come back more of Dr. Robb Kelly's story, The Addiction Doctor, here on the debut show of the Robb Kelly Hour. Don't go away. Hey, it's the Monty Man with a question for you. Why not take us on the go? You can download our app for iOS or Android by simply visiting us at take12radio.com and click on Follow Me on Podomatic. And if you're really old school, check us out on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MONTYMEYER. All right, welcome back to the show. We are on the phone with Dr. Robb Kelly, affectionately known as the Addiction Doctor, on this debut show of the Robb Kelly Hour. And we're going to be listening to a song that he wrote. We almost started playing it there here at the end of the show. But we've been talking about his story, which is not unlike many of our stories. There's definitely some similarities there. We want you to understand that the shows that we do here at Take 12 Recovery Radio are teaching tools. Each one of these things is meant to help show you a better way of living than perhaps what you've been experiencing in the past or your loved ones have been experiencing. Dr. Robb, so what happened next? I mean, how did you get where you are today? I mean, from being homeless and all this stuff going on, what happened?
So after I had the spiritual awakening, I got into this guy let me stay there, and then eventually, so I'm going to tell you a story that I don't want to freak anybody out here, guys, but it's my story, okay? So remember that when I go forward with this. So I get to this guy's house, I shower and I change for the first time in about 12 months, which is awesome. And then he takes me to this 12-step meeting, and I don't want to go to this meeting. I've been in these meetings before. It's all war stories and stuff like that. But I go because, hey, it's a dry bed at the end of the night. And that's all I was worried about. I'm sat in this meeting, listening to all the guys brag and stuff like that, where I come from. That's all they did. And about halfway around, this guy, who was next in line to talk, says, my name's John, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And the words that he said, recovered alcoholic, struck me in the face because, like, I'm hopeless. Why didn't nobody tell me I could get over it? You know, all the anger came back when I was there. And after the meeting, and he talked about the book, and he would say sentences that was outrageous. And then he'd open the book and he'd read it from the book, and you go, "Oh my God, it's in that book!" I couldn't believe it was in the book. So after a meeting, I walked over and said, "Will you sponsor me?" And he said, "No," which I was devastated. But before I could get too devastated, he said, "But I will be your spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks. And he explained that he will do a book study where I look for God words, must words, messages, and promises. There's 351 God words in the first 164. I had no idea about that. But I did that. And every Wednesday night, the first time round, he said, bring your book and a dictionary. Of course, this egoistic homeless person said, I don't need a dictionary. I went to Oxford, if you don't mind. He looked me straight in the face and very kindly said, bring a dictionary. I thought, okay. So I got a dictionary. Unfortunately, I think I stole it. I'm not sure. From this guy's house. But I'm in that big book. And then I walked, Monty, for an hour because I couldn't afford a bus fare. I didn't have any job. I walked for an hour to his apartment. We went up there. We studied for an hour. He showed me stuff in that book I'd never seen before. And then I would go home, and all week I would read 4 pages a day. And at the end of Wednesday, I'd walk back again with all 4, I don't know how many pages it was, maybe 20-something pages I'd read, marked in different colour pens. Anyway, I did this for 12 weeks. After we did the book study, he sat me down. He said, we're going to go through the steps in 2 days. Of course, immediately I said, you can't go through it in 2 days. I've heard it 6 months or weeks. And he said, no. And he read the part, step 5, where it says, go home. And then he read steps 3 to 4. He said, they have little permanent effects unless that once. And he read step 4 and 5, and he goes, next. We go straight on. Immediately, there's words like this. So that's what I did. When I walked to that man's house on a Sunday evening on a warm summer's day, I knew that I would never drink alcohol again as long as I continued to do his program. He told me miraculous things will start to happen. Now, this guy was freaking me out because my life was starting to get good with no job and no money. I started to feel better. I knew I'd recovered when I walked to that man's house. The very next day, I got a part-time job, was offered to me out of the blue. That week, it turned into a full-time job. The next week after that, somebody gave me a car, a battered-up car that I could drive around. Wasn't very good, and I couldn't really afford the petrol or the gas. But I was so happy with this. So after 2 or 3 weeks, I got my first paycheck, and I went to the gas station, and I said, "Hey, can I have a little teddy bear?" All I could afford. And I bought a card, and I wrote onto the card, "Thank you, John, for introducing me to God, because he took the compulsion to drink away." I always remember that, all these years on, 30 years on, or whatever it is. And I walked back to his house, Monty, the same way I've always walked back to his house, the same route, everything. Nice summer's day. Got up to the apartment, knocked on the door, and there was nobody there. There was no answer or nothing.
Wow.
As I was knocking, the guy next door, or the lady next door, I'm sorry, to the right-hand side, she came out, and she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes. Can you tell where John's relocated to?" And she said, "Oh, you've got the wrong address. There's been no one there, and that's 6 months that I've been here. That's been empty." So I closed the door, and I thought, crazy. She must be crazy. So when I saw the light off and she'd gone in, I went to the left-hand side, and I knocked on the door, a bit heavily this time, because now I'm a little bit concerned, and nobody knows where this John is. He could be dead in there for all we know. Anyway, the guy opened the door, and I said, "Can you tell me where John's moved to?" Now I'm getting a bit nervous. And he said, "John, that apartment's been empty for a year. You can't go in it. There's some asbestos leaking at the top. You can't go in it. Nobody goes in that." It was the right address, Monty. I knew it was the right address. So what I did, I thought, this is crazy. I kept looking around going, no, this is the address. 12 times I've been here. So I went to the meeting where I'd met him. And this one gets even creepier. And I said to the chairman, "Do you remember John I was speaking to last night, or a couple of nights ago, whenever it was?" And, sorry, a couple of months ago. Probably a month and a half. And he said, "John." And I said, "Yeah, the guy with white hair, got a little bit of a trimmed beard." And they started laughing at me. So I grabbed him. Unfortunately, I got a little violent, because I thought he was embarrassing in front of all these guys. And I grabbed him by the shirt and the neck, and they all jumped on as they were laughing and dragged me off. And he said, "Rob, calm down." So I said, "You must have seen me over near the coffee machine talking to him." And he went deadly silent. And one guy said, he was brave enough, said, "Rob, we saw you over the coffee machine speaking to yourself. That's why we were laughing." Never found that guy, Monty. Never found him.
Wow. That was divine intervention.
Has to be, because
Had to be.
nobody's heard him. And he told me a couple of things, John. He said, "I got a message from God." And I thought, oh, here we go. Not one of those people, Go on and tell me what it is. And he says, "You have to go around the world guaranteeing people that they can recover from alcoholism." He didn't say addiction, he said alcoholism. And I said, okay. And then he said, "It's going to take you thousands of miles away from your birth country." And I thought, well, that's definitely not happening. It's just not going to happen. And then I don't know how long it was after that, but obviously I came to America, and then my career and my life just took off 14 years ago when I landed in Dallas.
And something happened to you recently that has to do with America, right?
Yes, I've been here 14 years as a green card holder, a permanent resident. And about 2 months ago, we decided to make me a citizen. So we did, because my wife's like a political girl. She wants me to vote. So we did, and the process went very fast for me. It was a matter of 6 weeks. We come and we got my date for the interview. And I just thought it was an interview. You sit down and go, "Hey, you're from England? Yeah. Do you want to come to America? Yeah. Okay, you're welcome." But it wasn't. It was a test. So I had to study the test over a period of about a week.
Yeah.
And I went down there, and about 2 weeks ago, I became a full-fledged citizen of the United States, which I'm very proud.
Yeah, so congratulations, my friend. I'm just
Thank
tickled
you.
to death and very proud of you, too. When I saw your post on Facebook, I was like, yes, I started clapping. There wasn't anybody in the room, and I started clapping. I thought that's just so great. Well, my goodness sakes. I mean, to have an angelic visitation of some kind, and then I love what you say, and you preach this like I preach this, and that is the statement, recovered. There's so many folks out there that want to go from keep them sick from keep it simple to keep them sick. And that's what we're doing. We're keeping people sick when all the time, if you follow the directions and you do this right, you can and do recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. True?
Very true. But what we have to do, first of all, I get all this all the time. "Oh, you're recovered." I'm still recovering. I'm still recovering. I don't want to jinx it. This ain't a freaking jinx. Listen, how can you jinx it? How can you
Right.
jinx God's work that's taking you away? So we have to look at the word recovered. I always get this in meetings. Well, you're never cured. Never said it was cured.
Right.
Well, that's what recovered means. First of all, I tell them to buy a dictionary, first of all, very, very quietly. And then I say, let's look at the word recovered in the Oxford English, because that's where they were reading from. If you read the big book, you'll find out there's a lot of words there, like nagging, that people don't know what it means, because it came from the Oxford English. And the reason why it did is because the original members of the Oxford group actually went to Oxford University like me. So let's look at the word recovered. It says to gain one's health and state of mind back. So gain one's health. I'm no longer sick because I can't crave for it because it's no longer in my body. Check. The book says there'll be a source of sanity. Check. That's what it means. Recovered. Yeah, I had food poisonings once. I recovered from food poisoning. Is there a cure for food poisoning? No. You know, you eat bad food, you're going to get food poisoning. But I'll give you a few simple steps to make sure you don't get food poisoning. Don't look at the date. Always look at the date. Never refreeze anything that's already been frozen. And the doctor gave me some simple steps. Never had food poisoning since.
Yeah.
Same with alcoholism.
Yeah.
12 steps. Make sure you don't get it. So if you're recovering, and I don't care what you do, to be honest with you, that's your trip. But it's like me having the flu, for which there's no cure either, and always telling people I'm recovering from the flu. After a bit, once someone's going to pull you up and go, hey, are you not sick of this recovering bit? Get over it. Move on. You've not got flu anymore. Why do you keep telling anybody you're recovering from flu? It's the same thing with alcoholism. What I do have is a daily reprieve. Oh, let's look up the word reprieve. It means a stay of execution. It means it like I'm on death row, guys. I've been dealt a death row hand here. But if I'm pretty good today, like I was tomorrow, at the Good Samaritan, be kind to people, do all that stuff, the governor is once again that morning going to come up and go, Dr. Kelly, you have another stay of execution today. And I go, thank you, governor. That means I got another day to live. It's the same thing with the disease. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic is the traits of our disease. It doesn't mean that we go through all day going, I just don't drink today. Just don't drink. That's not recovery. That's hell on earth. So if you're one of them guys that always recovering, God bless you. I love you. I've got nothing. The only requirement is the desire to stop drinking. But do me a favor, will you? When little Johnny comes in and sat at the back of the room, dying of untreated alcoholism, shut up. You got nothing to say.
Yeah.
Your war stories will not get him well. And that's one of the reasons why some 12 rooms have gone from 99% around Akron to 2 or 3% across the world, because we're watering down sponsorship, we're watering down big books, and we're watering down God. I was told in a meeting, there's a newcomer here, Rob, don't mention God. I'm the wrong person to say that to. You know?
Yeah.
There's 351 God words in the first 164. The book categorically tells us God either is or he isn't. And then he goes, hey, it's your choice. You know?
Sure.
My sponsor used to say to me, he said, do you believe in God? I said, you know, I'm not too sure. There's 26,000 gods, Rob, pick one. I go, what? He doesn't have to be, no. Now, see, what people don't understand is in that book is absolutely scientific facts about neural pathways and stuff like that. But it also says that we can choose a God of our own understanding. Never says that. Never. I won so much money on this. It says choose a God as we understand him with a capital H. Has to be a God. Has to be a power greater than me.
Yeah.
Can it be a lampshade? No. If electricity went out and that goes off, you are doomed, my friend.
Right.
It has to be a power. Then look at the capital P when it says it has to be a power. That's a capital P, greater than ourselves, which will solve all my problems. Oh my God, how can that be possible? I had a sponsor who used to say, what does the book say, Rob? And I'm like, look, I was sick of this guy. And I went to him one day and I couldn't wait to get to him because I had something that was going to get him about the book. And I finally met him for lunch and we met together. I said, okay, listen. Okay, so my auntie's daughter's dog bit me twice the other day. Huh? What about that? And he said, what does the book say about that? I'm like, there is no way does the big book mention my auntie's daughter's dog. And he said, no, Bob, it mentions you. I thought, wow. Wow. And out of 20, I want to say 26 years of colleges and universities and schools that I've attended to collect my 2 PhDs, behavioral science and psychology, all the paperwork, studied Carl Jung as a professional, not as an AA thing. And I've got to say now categorically, and I want to go on record for this, that the best piece of literature I've ever read in all them readings over all them years and all that studying is the first 164 pages of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because it talks about a psychic change, which is a change in neural pathways, a change of mind. Psychic after psychologist, psychiatrist, change. It's a change of mind. Now, the medical fraternity were on fire 10 years ago. Oh my goodness, we found out this is called neuroplasticity. We can actually change the way we think. This is new findings. And I was on stage when they announced this, and I stood there, and I swear to you, I held a big book up. And eventually the room got quiet, and I held up. I said, in 1938, when they were writing this book, they talked about a psychic change, a permanent recovery. And that's how before their time that was. That's how God inspired that book was.
Isn't it true, Doctor, that when you really think about it, true science and spirituality actually don't contradict each other at all? They actually fit like hand in glove, don't they?
Yes, they do. And here's another thing to emphasize what you just said. And these are my findings over years and years with somebody else who's just got onto it. And that is, listen to this, guys. This will freak you out. So the book says the same man will drink again. That's what it says blatantly. So when you have a psychic change and a spiritual awakening, your DNA changes. Your DNA changes. Think about that, guys. You're not the same person as you was. We're talking about permanent recovery here. We're talking about getting a life beyond your wildest dreams. Look at me, homelessness to one of the best minds in the modern addiction world is what they call me. My ego side of my brain likes that, Monty. Look at it, as simple as this. How did I do that journey? I did it of the power of God, capital P, the power of God. And for those guys that are not God guys, God bless you. I wish you all the best. I'm just telling you now that God either is or he isn't. And once you get on board, miraculous, a capital M in the book, miraculous things will follow. So I did some study on this, Monty. I thought, how can this be? How can a little book like this, or the big book, have a life-changing effect on me? So that's when, about 25 years ago, I got into the brain science of this disease. Let's find out what's really going on. So it all revolves around trauma, which I said I was talking about today. Mm-hmm. But, or as the big book calls it, 80 years ago, clearing the wreckage from your past. Boom! What? Now they call it trauma. Let's go back and get rid of the childhood trauma. I'm going to tell everybody now, and this is proven from my past records, that everybody who is an alcoholic, a real alcoholic as the book says, has childhood trauma. Now, how do we decipher that childhood trauma? Because I was never in an accident. Well, mom and dad never divorced. Listen to this. So, me and Johnny, okay? Same mom, me and Johnny, he's my brother. My mom tells us the same sentence, okay? This is what the normal brain, my brother, hears. Get down off that chair. You stupid idiot. Get down, is what my brother hears. This is what, with my alcoholic brain, which has been remapped from birth, predisposition with the trauma, this is what I hear. Get out of that chair, you stupid idiot. That's what I hear. That's childhood trauma. And that's what we found with our research, is we've got to be real careful how we define childhood trauma, because if we miss it out, clearing the wreckage of your past, they called it, then we're not going to get well. And I run a book study every Saturday morning for a bunch of guys in San Antonio. I walked in that book study. They're all recovered alcoholics who were saying, my name's Jim, recovered alcoholic. A lot of people like to join in and, and
sure.
I said, everyone be honest now. Who did a step 10 last night? And nobody put their hand up. You see, we can't do that. This is where we're getting a bad name from the book, because you're not doing your stuff and you relapse and you go, well, I was working my program and I relapsed. Let me tell you now, everybody listening out there, it's impossible while working a program to relapse. Impossible. In fact, if you do it, please let me know. I'll probably give you $50,000 for new scientific evidence, because it's impossible. The book talks about permanent neural pathways, psychic change, that you never have to go down the self-sabotaging ever again. Watch yourself die. Like, if I drop a pen on the floor, I'm not a stupid idiot. I've just dropped a pen on the floor. And these are the things we need to look at, is when I go into a meeting, Monty, it becomes a pet rally. A bloody pet rally, as my sponsor, Chris Raymer, used to say. It's a pet rally, Rob. And that's what I do. Oh, here's the guy. Here's that crazy English guy who says what everyone else is thinking. Here's the guy. We all go home. We feel really good when he comes around. That's my job, guys. My father could have died 20 minutes before that meeting, and you would never know. Why? That's why God gave us psychotherapists. That's why God gave us counselors and grief counselors. It's not what I come in a room and get you down by my woes. War stories are not going to get you well. What you want to see is this guy suffering from chronic alcoholism who lost his kids and his wife to this disease is now living his dream because of what he's doing. Makes sense, yeah?
Yeah, that is great stuff. You just perked my ears up. You said Chris Raymer. That's Myers Raymer's brother, right?
It is, yeah. In fact, before you say anything, let me tell you a quick story. When Myers was my sponsor overseas, every morning I'd have to go and ring him from a call box in Manchester, which was so funny. So when I came over here, I've never seen. I landed at DFW Airport. I think it was a Friday night or Wednesday, I can't remember. But I told the taxi driver to take me straight to this place. And it was where his group, Primary Purpose, was walking. And I had my stuff in, and I put my suitcases outside and everything. And I walked in, and he looked across the room, Monty, and he looked at me and he said, Rob Kelly. I'm like, how do you know? Because loads of people going there who are new. He said, I had a connection from you from day one. So I take it you know him, Monty, yeah?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, Chris has been on the show several times back in the beginnings of Take 12 Recovery Radio. I was part of the Bulldog Orstrom's group, C4 Recovery Solutions, for a while, and with Chris Schroeder and Chris Raymer and Tony Messbarger and some of these guys. Some of the movers and shakers of the recovered world. Yeah,
exactly. It makes a difference. I remember laying in bed, and it must have been about 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was banging on my door. Because this was a lonely journey, Monty, as you know, when you stand up and start saying this stuff.
Yeah.
Talking about God in the meetings, page 11, second word. You know, we talk about God in the meetings, and I've been buffed, I've been sneered at, I've been threatened, all this stuff. It's a lonely journey. This guy knocks on my door. He's a good friend of mine. 1 o'clock in the morning it must have been. And I open the door, and before I can give him a mouthful for interrupting my sleep, he had this rickety tape in his hand and said, Rob, you need to listen to this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's what? Rob, you need to listen to this. So we took him in. We opened the cassette player. We put it in. We closed it, pressed play. And I heard, my name's Chris Raymer, recovered alcoholic. And my life changed right there.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that there was people out there like me.
Yeah.
In fact, when I speak anywhere, not all the time, but quite often, people will come up and go, how's Chris Raymer? And I go, what? How do you know? He said, you have the same language as him. You sound like him. Because really, that's the tape I listen to. I used to listen to it at least 5 times a day. One talk 5 times a day for I don't know how many years. And it was ingrained. So when I first got up and come over here, did my speaking, I told everyone I was a recovered alcoholic, and everyone's looked over and started smiling, and I started to pound that book to them.
Yeah.
You know? Because if you open it's like me going to a math lesson. I'm going to a math lesson with my math book. And I open the page and it says 2 and 2 equals 4. And everyone else is going, ha ha, can't say 4. 2 and 2 equals 5. I go, well, what does the book say? It says 4. Oh, don't be silly. It's always 5. I don't want to jinx it. It's always 5. You know, it's the same with the big book. Title page, guys, the title page. Alcoholics Anonymous, big, brave words underneath it. This is the story of how many thousands of men and women who have recovered from alcoholism. So if you haven't seen that, and by the way, it mentions recovered 27 times in the big book. It mentions recovered 21 times, and it mentions recovering twice. And that's in the family afterwards and to the wife. So I don't know, guys. Which way are you?
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, you know, people's perception is their reality, real or imagined. And some of these folks are imagining something that's not there. I'm telling you right now.
I know. I always say this, Monty. You know, I'm not here to preach to anybody. I'm just here to tell the truth. You know, when the big book walks in, the bullshit walks out. That's all I can say about that. I've had people, I remember talking Preston Group, Highland Park in Dallas, Texas. It was a huge group. We're talking nearly 200 on a Friday night to listen to the speaker. I emptied that room within about 20 minutes. There was one person left. Emptied the room because they didn't like the truth. They want to go there in the Range Rovers and tell them what a bad day they had going back to the $10 million house and pretending they're alcoholic because the wife thinks they're drinking too much, or the courts have sent them there, or you're lonely and you want to meet new people. Stop coming to our rooms. If you've got a problem with alcoholism and a desire to stop drinking, go away. Why are you wasting time with us?
Yeah.
And the problem with AA is when it was first come around all them years ago, for the first 5 or 6 years, it was awesome. And then somebody invented a treatment center. And what happened after they left treatment is like, what do we do now? Oh, go to them AA meetings. And everybody out treatment centers came to our AA meetings. And we allowed them to talk, Monty. We allowed them to tell them what a bad day they're having and how the cat was really sick, so he might be an alcoholic. And what happened to Alcoholics Anonymous? It buckled under the weight. That's a big problem I have today. One of my videos out there is, let's get back to the 98% success rate. What's stopping us? You have to be brave enough. Like you, like me, like Chris, like Tony. You need to be brave enough to stand up and go, hey, here's the deal. And God gave me everything, Monty. I was a fighting boy, as a boxer, karate. I lived on the streets. I can handle myself. I go in these meetings and I say what I've got to say. And people might sneer, but they're not going to take it any further. They're not going to cross-share because I look like a robber's dog on my best day. I'm a big, tough guy, ex-bodybuilder. So if you want to go outside and argue, I'm good with that. Don't worry about that because I'm stood in the sunlight of the spirit today and I'm telling the truth because that's what I got told when I came off the streets. I'm telling you about the guarantee them. You can't guarantee them, Rob. Oh, really? Let's look at the first manuscript off the press for the big book. 100% guaranteed, it says on the top. 100% guaranteed. I truly believe that today. That AA is not for me. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. Come back. Go drink. Come back. You can't tell someone to go and drink, Rob. Hang on a sec. Click, click, click. What does the big book say? If you are not convinced, step over to the nearest ballroom. Try some controlled drinking. Try it more than once. Go and drink if you're not satisfied. But don't come in our rooms pissing and moaning every day. Depressed every day. That's why God gave us therapists. Go to your therapist. This has got to be a pep rally every time you walk through the door. Because you know something? Today might be the only face that the struggling alcoholic who's about to commit suicide is going to see. And I'm not going to be miserable. And I'm not going to be sit there like a grumler. I'm going to bring him over and say, Johnny, have you seen this book? Have you seen the life you can live? Have you seen it, Johnny? Because I'm telling you something now. We ask for so little and he wants to give us so much. So we trudge. Going back to the Roman days where the English dictionary comes in again, trudge means to march on triumphantly. Different meaning today. It means to be stuck in mud and really try. No, it's different meanings. We've got to look back. What does the word really say? And when you understand what it says, like the word earnestness. Earnestness is I think I know what it means. Do you know what the synonym of earnestness is? I asked them. It's sober. Sober. The book is full of all this stuff that's amazing. We'll be amazed before we're halfway through. And my primary purpose is must stay sober. 164 pages. Half of that is 82. Halfway down the page, halfway across, must keep sober. The book's full of stuff like that.
Oh, my goodness. This is just wonderful stuff. I can't wait until next month. Folks, the fourth Monday of every month, the Robb Kelly Hour with Dr. Robb Kelly, the addiction doctor. This is a no-nonsense approach to recovery because there's plenty of nonsense out there, and you can't make sense out of nonsense, so we're not going there. We're going with the truth. We're going to what the book says, and you don't have to agree with it, but you can't argue that it says what it says because that is the truth. Dr. Kelly, we're going to close out this show with a song that you actually did. You're somewhat of a musician in your own right. Tell us about that, and we'll close out with this song for this month.
So, I think I was born a musician. At the age of 9, thrown on stage where I took my first drink. Liverpool Irish Centre over in the UK. Did a lot of crazy stuff. But let me tell you, this is I think in the day, it was crazy. But I know Elton John. We did a lot of time together. And I always tell a story about what happened one night. And the funny thing is, we went on a tour last year in London, the bus tour. Mm-hmm. And the commentator told this story. And my wife looked at me and I said, I told you I wasn't lying. Because some of the stuff I say, I'm sure she doesn't believe me. But we did a session one day in Abbey Road. And we're working there. and it's thunder and lightning, and the electricity kept going up, and the other system used to click in. But of course, there was a second or two delay, so the recording stopped, and we start again. So Elton said, "I'm done with this." You know, he's had a few drinks, we all have, and he said, "I'm done with this. Let's take this back to the hotel, and we'll party for the night." So we goes down, wind, rain. It was horrible, Monty. It was me, the lead player, Elton, 2 bodyguards, 3 singers, and we headed over there. We got to the penthouse suite in the Savoy Hotel. It used to be one of the most prestigious hotels in the world. We get up there, we're into this, a nice suite it's got. The drinks are there. We're just having a great old time. And I hear Elton screaming from the bedroom. And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? So I walk to the bedroom and I see this sight. Elton is on the phone to the receptionist, telling her categorically that if she doesn't stop the wind and the rain, he will never book into this hotel again. That's the craziest background that I've got, full of crazy stuff like that. So I love being a musician. I have a music room in my house, which I don't go in as often as I should. But on most songs that I've done, I play all the instruments because I'm one of those guys that can play everything. In actual fact, people go, "How can you do all that?" And I go, "How can you not?" Because somebody gave me a bagpipes once. He said, "You think you're smart? Get a tune out of that." I said, "Give me 10 minutes. I got a tune out of it." It's just what it does. So I love my music. I love, I had a song. It was actually a poem that I wrote to my wife called "My God." That I turned into a song. We recorded it on an iPhone. We had a mixing desk on an iPhone. It was about 2 or 3, 4 years ago. And we recorded it, and it sounded awesome. But the song we're going to play now, what happened is it was a producer. It's always a backstory, Monty, to me. You know that.
Sure.
There's a producer in Hollywood that wanted a new song for a new TV program. And that's what we did. We went into the studio, had nothing at all. In fact, on the way there was a guy that used to work with me. And he said, "I want to be a singer. I can sing." I said, "Have you ever sang professionally?" "Oh, no, not to anybody. No, just in the bathroom. But I think I'm good." Whew, how many times have you heard that? But I said, "Hey, why don't you come along to us to the studio?" And he came along in recovery, just like me, and all the other guys in recovery. And we have a whiteboard that comes down from the ceiling, and I write chords and I write words on it, and we go along and we make it up there and then. And somebody will say, "Hey, let's go to a B minor there and sing this." So we kind of write this song, and we're ready. We practice it once, and we're ready to go in. And I'm singing it, and I'm not a great singer. And this guy said, "I can sing that." And we all looked at him. He's like, "This is going to Hollywood. You can't sing that." But being kind and being in recovery, love to give people a chance, said, "Come on, sing it." So this guy that you're about to hear now on Life Worth Living, which is what the program was going to be called, sang for the first time ever in front of people, and definitely in a recording studio. And this is the result. So I want to give a shout out to my wife for this, because she stuck around for a few years with me, to all my friends. But I'll tell you what, I want to say this before we go. And that is, it's been my absolute pleasure to meet Monty Myers, the Monty Man. When he came, I've heard from him for such a long time at a radio show, but we never met. And it was a year or two, something like that, that we actually got on his show, and it was phenomenal. But when I'm hanging around people like Monty, I feel like a giant. When I'm hanging around Monty and hear some of his guests and him talk about the big book and life, it's just an absolute pleasure. So I hang around these guys for a reason. Monty doesn't know this, and I don't want to embarrass him, but he's one of my inner circle, which there are only 7 people on my inner circle. He's one of those guys. I admire him. Wow. I think he's amazing, and I think he's actually saved millions of people's lives with the ripple effect. So I want to dedicate Life Worth Living to Monty Myers and Janet Kelly.
Well, God bless you, my friend. Listen, here is Robb Kelly's song, Life Worth Living, and then we'll come back and close out the show.
5, 4, 3.
Making
And that is our very own Dr. Robb Kelly with his song, Life Worth Living. And by the way, don't forget to check out the Recovery Channel podcast. Simply go to Facebook and search for Dr. Robb Kelly. Hey, are you struggling with addiction issues, or do you know somebody who is? Why not step out of the disease and into the solution with the Robb Kelly Recovery Group? Visit that website at robbkelly.com. All right, until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man for the Robb Kelly Hour, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty. Meow, meow, meow.
Woof, woof.